Have you ever had that terrifying experience? You know the one. You wake up in the dead of night and you're completely frozen. Your mind is racing. You can see everything around you, but you can't move a muscle, you can't scream. It's called sleep paralysis. But what if I told you there's a simple, powerful hack to fight back? Well, let's get right into it.
And this quote, wow, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? That feeling of being utterly helpless, like there's this crushing weight on you. Your brain is wide awake, but your body is still completely locked down. For the millions of people who go through this, it's a deeply personal and, honestly, a pretty scary thing.
So what is actually happening to your body? Well, scientifically, it's known as sleep paralysis. Basically, it's a glitch in the system. Your brain wakes up, but the part of your brain that paralyzes your muscles during dreams, so you don't, physically act them out, it hasn't gotten the memo yet. The timing is just a little off. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because there are two totally different ways people look at this. For centuries, across so many cultures, the explanation has been spiritual. People describe it as some kind of spirit or entity literally holding them down. But the modern, clinical view, it sees it as a temporary neurological hiccup that's totally harmless and usually over in a few minutes.
Look, no matter what you believe is going on, a spirit or just your synapses, that feeling of being helpless is 100% real. But what if you didn't have to just lie there terrified, waiting for it to end? What if you could actually seize control right in that moment?
So the source for this explainer talks about a simple trick they learned when they were just 15. And we're not talking about some complicated medical procedure or anything like that. It's a super simple physical action that's all about focus and intention. And apparently, it's worked for them ever since.
Okay, so here it is, the toe flick hack. First, the second you realize what's happening, you have to try not to panic. Instead, you take all of your mental energy, every ounce of your focus, and you pour it into one tiny point, your big toe. Why the toe? Well, it's one of the furthest points from your brain, so it's often one of the first things you can get to move again. Then, with all that focused power, you just flick it. It might only be a tiny little twitch, but that's all you need. That's the spark. Then, in your mind, you imagine that tiny flick is a huge, powerful kick, pushing that feeling, that presence, right off of you.
And this is the real secret sauce right here. Maybe that little physical flick is just enough to wake up your nervous system. But the real power, it's psychological. It completely changes the game. You go from being the victim in the situation to being a fighter. It's all about taking back your power when you feel like you have none.
This idea that your focused mind, your intention, can create a real physical change, that's not just about sleep paralysis, not by a long shot. This taps into a much bigger, much more powerful connection between our minds and our bodies. For a really powerful example of this, the source brings up the incredible story of Joe Dispenza. According to his story, he had an accident that left him paralyzed from the neck down. He decided against surgery and instead poured everything he had into mindfulness and visualization, picturing his spine healing itself cell by cell. And he says that, against all odds, he was back to normal in a few months. It's an amazing story about the potential power of the mind.
Now, as inspiring as stories like that are, the source is really careful to add a little dose of reality here. Believing in the power of your mind is one thing, and it's a great thing, but it's absolutely crucial to keep a balanced perspective.
And that's really the big takeaway, isn't it? It doesn't matter if you think it's spirits or synapses, whether you're dealing with sleep paralysis or some other challenge in your life, it's about finding that strength inside yourself, in your own focus and belief, but without completely losing touch with the world around you. So I want to leave you with this thought. That toe flick, it's really just a metaphor, right? For any time in your life you feel paralyzed by fear, by anxiety, by your circumstances, what is your toe flick? What is that one small, focused thing you can do to start fighting back and reclaim your power?